Hi everybody, today's recipe is tomato and coriander salsa. Now there's two aspects to this recipe. One is you make your tomato and coriander salsa and the other one is you make your tortilla chips to serve with it. Okay, so there's going to be two videos, one just for the tomato and coriander salsa and one for the tortilla chips. Now to save time on the video, to make everything just a little bit quicker, I've filled my sink already with my hot water. As you know, you've got to clean up as you go and make sure you leave your kitchen nice and tidy. I don't want any parents complaining. Okay, I've got my recipe already here so as I can see it and read it. I've washed my hands already. I've got my chopping board with my non-slip mat underneath and I've got all my ingredients ready to go. Now you need 100 grams of tomatoes for this. That's really just one tomato, but today I thought may as well make it worth my while, and I've got two. Now really encourage you guys to be as creative as you possibly can be, because you're at home. When you're at school, you're going to be given just these ingredients and nothing else. Whereas if you're at home and you have access to other ingredients that you think you can add, go for it. But please tell me when you upload your videos, please tell me what it is that you've done to modify your recipe. Okay, I'm starting with, that's my coriander, red onion. Now I didn't have lime, I've got lemon juice, it does the same job, and a lemon juice squeezer. And I'm going to add the optional chilli. We really love chilli in our household, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to start with the tomatoes. Okay, so I've got a bowl ready to put my tomatoes into. It's probably a bit big, but it's the one I had handy. Okay, you'll see on the tomatoes have eyes. These things are known as eyes. And I want to remove those from my tomatoes. So I'm going to use just a small knife, holding the tomato in your left hand, and obviously if you're left-handed it's the other way around. You just put the very tip of the knife into the tomato and guide it around the eye, cutting in a circular motion. Okay, do you want to take that bit out? Okay, remember to have your scrap bowl on the bench ready if you don't have access to a bin like I do here. Just bring that forward a bit. Okay, so on both the tomatoes, I'm cutting out the eyes. A lot of people don't do that. I really don't like eating that part of the tomato, but you know, each to his own. And I don't like finding it in recipes and dishes when I'm eating. So with your tomato, it says that you have to combine everything into the bowl. Now, cutting the tomato in half using a knife, and then try and cut it in half again, so you've got four pieces, or four slices rather, very, very thick slices of tomato. Then you want to turn it on to its top and you want to cut it across. Be very, very careful, probably in about four. And then you want to turn the tomato again, try and keep it all together, nice and neat. And you want to cut it again. My knife is going a little bit blunt, I think. So be very careful. That way you're going to have nice, even pieces of tomato. Now I'm going to go a little bit quicker. You're going to pop those into your bowl. Some people like to take the seeds out as well. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do that with the next tomato. I prefer the seeds out, to be honest, but this recipe doesn't require you to take them out. Okay, so pop all that in there. Be very, very careful with your knife. So cutting your tomato in half that way so as you can see. So there's the eye that I took out. Now all you do is get your index finger and you put your index finger in there and hook out, just using it, hook out all the seeds from the tomato. and turn it upside down. Get out all the seeds. I prefer my tomatoes like that, as I've said, but you know, some people like to eat the seeds. Okay, and then you can actually merely keep that for stock or for something else. Today I'm just going to chuck it away because I'm not going to be able to use it for anything else. Remember to clean as you go. So I've got my cloth. Remember my sink full of nice hot washing up liquid. Washing up water, I should say, with the liquid in there. And just cleaning up all the mess that I've made. And my tea towel ready as well. I haven't got it on today. Put that aside. So again, just take your tomato, cut it lengthwise, and then turn it around. You can do this just one at a time if you find that your knife is sticking a little bit like mine is. Just be very careful because tomatoes will catch. With that, I'm going to cut this one in half. Now if you can practice, you can see how I'm using my knife. If you can practice that, it's good. Always make sure you keep your fingers well out the way of the other hand though. That's merely there just to keep the food, now guide the food rather. So that's your tomatoes cut. Pop them into your bowl. Now the next thing we need to do is a red onion. And here's my red onion. Okay, top and tail the red onion and take off the skin, the outside skin of the onion. These are known as Spanish onions as well. Might be a bit fiddly. This one's certainly fiddly. Start to take off some of the skin. You can actually take off that layer and make it a bit easier. You can get your finger in there. There you go, get rid of all that. Now this recipe only asks for 1/4 of an onion. So I'm going to show you how to cut an onion properly. Okay, so you've got your onion, you've got the skin off, cut it in half, set one half aside. The fat end of the onion, have that towards you, using your fingers as a guide and the knife like so. You're going to cut down the onion, not right through to the end. You want to still hold it all together. Now then you're going to take your knife and again with your hand out the way, you're going to cut across the onion. Okay, and then keeping your fingers well out the way. Now you'll notice that starts to get just a little bit bigger towards the end, so that's nice and chopped. Okay, you can do a lot finer than that when you get to be practiced. You don't waste this part of the onion. Just chop it that way and pop it all aside. I'm going to use this chopped onion for another recipe that I have to do today, but I'm only going to use half of that because remember it's only 1/4 of an onion. So I'm going to take, I'll probably take this little pile here because it's going to be eaten raw. It's the smallest of the chop. Pop that in there. Now just be careful when you do your onion to do it. Some people have some ideas about putting things next to the onion to absorb the smell so you don't start crying. Okay, then we need 3 tablespoons of coriander. This is coriander that you would have grown at school or may have grown. Hopefully you've got some in the garden that you can use, and it says just 3 teaspoons. Okay, so I'm going to chop off that end of the coriander. You don't need that end. You really just want to use the leaves. Okay, so these bits go in the bin. Just take me a minute to put them all together. What did I say it was? 3 tablespoons. 3 tablespoons, so I'm going to need just quite a bit. Smells beautiful. By the way, I've washed this before I've used it. Again, that was just to run it under the tap, cold water. That's all you need to do. Make sure that there's no impurities in that coriander, especially if you have picked it out of the garden, because you don't know what creatures have been eating or coming around and sniffing your herbs in the garden before you get to them. So here we go. Looks like I'm getting there. That probably be about 3 teaspoons. Now this needs to be chopped as well. So all this, whoops, that's time for the next one. Okay. Get all your coriander together and just using your knife, just roughly chop. It's going to sound really loud on this video, I think. One way and then the other, and you'll see it starts, the little pile starts to get smaller as we chop. Yeah. And the next thing we need is 2 teaspoons of lime juice, and as I've explained before, I don't have lime juice, but I've got lemon juice. Oops, my non-slip mat's not working as well as it could. Okay, so I'm going to just, that's probably enough. Pop all that in there. Notice I'm not going anywhere near the sharp end of my knife. Okay, I'm using the bowl to wipe my knife. And when it comes to the, so handy having a sink full of washing up liquid, washing up water. And then just wipe your knife across there. Is your knife clean? And your chopping board nice and clean. Now, this should really be done using a green chopping board. We do have access to green boards at school. I just didn't have one at home. So my video's made with using my wooden chopping board for everything that I clean thoroughly in between. But there are different coloured chopping boards for each thing that you chop in the kitchen. In this case, green for vegetables. So now my juicer, cut half a lemon and I'm giving that a squeeze. Okay, and then just measuring out 2 teaspoons. I'm actually going to put 3 in that because I put an extra tomato in there. Okay, and then of course your red chilli. Now be very careful with the chilli. You can use, I've got out some gloves, you can use gloves for the chilli. If you want to, don't touch any part of your face or anywhere else until you've washed your hands thoroughly after chopping the chilli. Take the top off the chilli and throw that away. Cut the chilli in half to expose the seeds. Now the seeds are dangerous, as in they are hot. You don't want to get those into your salsa, unless of course you're feeding people who absolutely adore chilli and the seeds. So scrape out all the seeds, both sides of the halved chilli. And best place for those little babies is in the bin. Please remember to take the seeds out. You're feeding this to your parents. They mightn't love you so much after eating your salsa if you've left those in. So you can see that I'm cutting this really quite fine. You do not, just be very careful cutting it. There's 1 and 2 stray seeds there. And then chop it that way. sure you've got that all nice and chopped. And that one chili in there will be enough. Anyway, enough for us in this household. Okay, now that's it finished. You want to just give it a bit of a stir around using a spatula. Mix all your ingredients together. If you can see that. Mix it all nice. And make sure you get an even distribution if you can. Now those flavours have to develop, so I'm just going to make sure, get all that off my, okay, make sure you don't lose any of those beautiful ingredients. And then you want to cover the whole thing in cling wrap. And it goes into the fridge for an hour. Now, while your salsa goes into the fridge for an hour, that's when you make your tortilla chips. If we were at school, you'd probably do your tortilla chips, obviously while it's in the fridge, and it wouldn't get quite so long in the fridge because our periods are only an hour and 15. So, but you're at home, you can leave it for an hour at least. You can even leave it longer. But we're going to pop it in the fridge for an hour. I'm going to do the next video for the tortilla chips, and then I'll finish it all off together.